Yeah! Woo! Heck yeah, baby!
Rivers gives to Sproles, angling left, has room, 15, 10, 5, jackpot! He got it! He got it! He got it!
Touchdown, Antonio Gates! 112 career touchdown catches. That's the most by an NFL tight end all time.
I would have hoped that people would have figured it out. I just like to play football.
This is Score More with Garrett Sisti.
Let's go!
What's up, good people? Welcome back to Score More. We're here. First episode before the season starts. We are at week 0, leading into week 1, I guess, if you want to call it that. But leading right into the first NFL game. Of course, the game started on Thursday. Chargers play on Sunday, playing the Raiders at home. And these Score More podcasts, if you remember, real quick hitters. We're not doing our long 40-minute, hour-long podcast. That's going to happen on Fridays now because we've got the mailbag, which is going on Fridays, and we've got the after hours on Sundays. Don't forget, we've got I Got 5 on it and Jamie's walkthrough coming up throughout this week as well. We're back with a full slate of shows. So, you know, your boy's real busy. And because of that, we record them real late at night, and we make them real quick and entertaining, hopefully. So, for week 0, -1, whatever you want to call it, right before week 1, I did a thing last year. A lot of people hated it, but I'm just going to do it again because I thought it was fun. Basically, I'm going to lay out why the Chargers could be bad this season and then why the Chargers could be good this season. I'll give 3 reasons for each, but I think it could go either way. Last year, a lot of the bad stuff I had mentioned kind of came into fruition. So maybe this is a double jinx type scenario, and we've got only good things ahead. With Jim Harbaugh, you got to assume and hope that that's the case. So I'm going to start off with bad and with good. And this is just hypothetical. If things roll out one way, it could be bad like it did last year, or it could roll out and be good, or they could meet somewhere in the middle throughout the season. No way to know, but I'm going to give you some things that could be concerning heading into the season. I feel a little bit concerning about before they start playing football games. That could all switch when they do start playing. And then some stuff I'm pretty confident in, but also could go the other way once they start playing actual football. So before football season begins, we did not see a lot of stuff going on in preseason, unfortunately, because of Easton Stick. Well, not just because of Easton Stick, but he was a big reason why. We didn't get to see how this passing game was going to be, but doesn't matter because we are only days away from week 1. So let's start off. 3 bad things and 3 reasons why the Chargers may not be very good this year. So the first one might not be surprising. Could be. I don't think a lot of people are talking about it so much, but there's a chance this O-line isn't very good. Joe Alt, drafted number 5 overall. We all have high hopes for him. Was by far and away one of the best well-rounded offensive linemen in this class. So you hoped, and through his preseason play, that he'd be pretty good. And we all assume he will be. But I think when you make that shift from the left side to the right side, there are going to be some hiccups, especially early on in the season, because you're doing things in the exact opposite way. He's only played left tackle, other than the preseason where he's played right tackle. So week 1, going up against Max Crosby, it's going to be a real tough test, and maybe his biggest test of the season as one of the best edge rushers off that right side. So Joe Alt, while we can assume he's going to be pretty good, the data shows that so far in the preseason. Once we hit week 1, we're going to see right off the bat against Max Crosby. But you got to assume he's not going to be as polished as he was in college just because he's going to the other side and he's now going against some of the league's best pass rushers. So Joe Alt, you hope you don't have to be too concerned with him. Trey Pipkins, I mean, he was really bad at right tackle. You move him in to guard, and they've raved about him in camp, but is he going to be better inside? Is he still going to be all not that good? I mean, the feet aren't all that great. Do we think that his hand placement is good enough? Is he good enough in a phone booth? Can Trey Pipkins be good enough between a rookie, Joe Alt, and then a veteran in Bradley Bozeman? I don't know, because Bradley Bozeman looked absolutely washed last year. Now, he's in a much better system, a run-first offense. He didn't have to go with that pass-heavy, having to basically block for almost 7 to 10 seconds every snap because Bryce Young wouldn't get rid of the ball. I get that. That's why his numbers could dip. You could make a case for that, but he hasn't looked good for 2 years straight. So, yes, he's in a better system. Yes, he's back with that Ortiz, Mauler, big bruiser type, wanting to just hit the man in front of him type system now. But, I mean, is this the year he falls off a cliff? I mean, I think we're all just assuming that Bozeman's going to be fine, but I don't know. He hasn't looked good for 2 years. So, especially not last year. And again, Panther system was wonky. It was not good at all. And I think this is a better fit, but now you're going at center with Bozeman, and you've got Trey Pipkins, who's never played guard in the NFL now, on one side, and then you've got Zion Johnson on the other, who has struggled every year of his career. He has not put together a consistent season at left guard. You hope that kind of fixes itself now that Slater's back, and he was gone for most of the year last year. So you hope that helps him a little bit, but you've got so many unknowns. I know that there was some talk about a drop off with Slater. He is an all-pro, and I think he'll always be an all-pro at the left side, and hopefully he'll be getting a contract soon when he's up for it. But I think you don't have to worry about Slater. There's major question marks at Zion Johnson. You have to worry about Bradley Bozeman. You don't know what to expect from Trey Pipkins. And then Joe Alt's a rookie, flipping from the left side to the right side. That line is concerning. And when they talk about how they want to run behind that line and they're going to grind out games with that line, they're a run-first attack with that line. They want to beat up the person in front of them, wear a team down late. Do they have the personnel to do that? They seem to think they do. But I think there's a lot of question marks, and that'll be answered very soon in the season. But if Bozeman ends up falling off that cliff and puts a third bad season together, and Trey Pipkins just does not work out on the right side at guard, and Joe Alt has a pretty steep learning curve, and it takes him half the season, 3/4 of the season to finally click, which you would expect from a rookie, that's granted. And then Zion Johnson still continues to struggle. I mean, there's a lot of questions on this offensive line, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. And this offensive line is the crux of this offense. It is the heartbeat of this offensive philosophy and what they want to do with this system. And if Greg Roman gets to do what he wants to do, it all depends on that line. And because there's so many questions, I question it too. So if things go bad, this team could be not so good if that offensive line does not click. And again, this is all a brand new 5. We know that Zion and Slater have, played side by side, but they weren't together last year. Bozeman's new. Alt is new. Pipkins is new inside. It'll be interesting, especially on the right side with Pipkins and Alt. That's going to be kind of your offensive line, or your biggest thing to watch come this Sunday against the Raiders, is how does that right side go up against guys like Max Crosby? How does Bozeman, Zion, Pipkins handle Christian Watkins? There's a lot of questions, and they're going to be tested because there are some guys on this defensive line for the Raiders. So right now, first thing to question, the offensive line. Number 2 is Justin Herbert's foot. So, bro, do not put pictures of his feet up there, please. By the way, Eddie's back. If you guys forgot, I got Eddie back here still. The intern's back for another season, and we are not starting this off with foot picks because he's trying to lead me in. But the second bad thing that could really wreck this season is Justin Herbert's feet. He got diagnosed with plantar fasciitis on his right foot, and that's one of those injuries that linger. And I know he got cleared, and nobody really thinks it's all that serious. He was running on it before they diagnosed it. But really, this is the type of injury that from week to week to week, could be a problem for Justin Herbert. It's all about managing the pain. There hasn't been real talk about the pain right now and having to deal with it. But if this is the type of thing, and what we've seen from injuries like this, especially foot injuries like this, that if you have to manage and it's a week by week basis, it just becomes a dredge, a sludge, a real walk through the snow type, week to week, slowly trying to manage your pain, icing it, getting treatment, doing everything you possibly can. And then you start thinking about it, and then you have problems throwing off of it. And then people start tackling you low, and you're worried about how you fall. And those are the type of injuries that could absolutely harpoon and send down a season like this with a guy like Justin Herbert, who obviously depends on his lower half. This injury, if it does linger, is really bad for the Chargers. I mean, we all saw what QB2 Easton Stick, who's no longer QB2, by the way. Thank you very much. QB2 3 now with Taylor Heineke. Not sure why I'm having trouble with that.
See, that's funny, because you're dumb.
Yes, he can win you games in a pinch, but I just don't know how confident we can be in Justin Herbert's foot. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe if it goes away. Maybe he's right when he said that he doesn't really feel any pain or there's no real issues with it right now. Great. Then no harm, no foul. But with these foot injuries like this, they always seem to linger. They always seem to go on. And there's always questions every week about how the foot's feeling. How are you managing the pain? How are you going to get past it? Are you going to be okay this week? And every single week he gets days off. And then there's more questions in the media. And then whoever drafted Justin Herbert in their fantasy leagues are sweating it every week. And I'm sorry for those people, me being one of them in a 2 QB league, but nobody cares about my fantasy team. But it just becomes an issue. It becomes an issue in Herbert's head. It becomes an issue in the media. It becomes an issue on the field. I mean, it just becomes an all-around issue everywhere. And I don't want it to be. Nobody really wants it to be, but it's definitely something to question going into the season, because he might be fine right now. The boot's off and hopefully it's all healed. But if that thing's lingering, I mean, that's just going to be real trouble for this team. All right, the third thing, which could make this team bad and something that I have questions going into the season, is now we talked about O-line, we talked about Herbert's foot, and my face is all over this, and I don't want this. I don't want this. Okay. At some point, I'm just going to cut them off from doing graphics and music, and sound effects and whatever. But for now, whatever. The third thing, offensive line, Justin Herbert, now defense. What if the corners are just not very good? On paper, if you asked any other fan that didn't watch any preseason, didn't know anything about training camp, you looked at this DB group on paper, especially the corners, I would say that most fans would say this is a bottom 5 cornerback group on paper. Asante Samuel Jr. has never been a cornerback 1. He's kind of almost in that role right now. Christian Fulton has struggled for years. He had 1 good season. You've got 2 rookies in Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still. Sorry, lost the name for a second. You got Jasir Taylor playing in the nickel. You've got Elijah Molden, who came over, who might be playing some corner, might be playing some safety. Anyway, hopefully he's playing in the box, if anywhere. But then you talk about Dean Leonard, who's more of a special teams player. I mean, I don't know how anybody could have confidence in this cornerback group going into week 1. It's rough. And some players played well in the preseason, like Dean Leonard, but I don't know that you want him on the field long term. That's kind of a small sample size against, 2s and 3s at that point. Jasir Taylor really feels like an unknown at the moment. He didn't really have a great preseason. He had an okay rookie year, kind of fell off towards the end of last year. I got a lot of questions about Jasir Taylor. Christian Fulton seems like a guy that hopefully with the change of scenery can hit, but I mean, it's a big gamble. Asante Samuel Jr. has been fine. Again, not a corner one. Tarheeb still looked great in the preseason. Cam Hart had his struggles. I'm hoping Tarheeb still takes some snaps by midseason. I really feel like he could make a difference on that field, and maybe we'll get some of him in the nickel and dime. But the problem is that I mean, I just don't know how good this group is. They don't feel very good. I'm not very confident in them. Maybe they are good. Maybe Fulton does turn around. Maybe Jasir Taylor, it kind of clicks for him. Maybe these rookies can make it on the field, and maybe that pass rush helps these corners because they've got 4 really good pass rushers. Maybe that helps the corners this year. Maybe they can be opportunistic and get some turnovers. I'm not sure, but I'm not confident going into the season with this cornerback group. Really felt like they needed to get a higher draft pick in this group. I know they got, Cam Hart and still late, but felt like either in free agency or in the draft, they needed to grab a corner. Felt like the beginning of day 3 was going to be that spot, but they went a little bit mid to late day 3 for that. I don't know. It just feels like this group could be better. And on paper, I'm not confident. I know a lot of people aren't confident as well, but this is a question mark, a big question mark on this defense. We know the edge rushers are going to be good. We know Derwin's still going to be good. We hope that Alohi puts another pretty good season together. The linebackers seem like they could be pretty promising. There's some young guys in there, but there's some guys who could do some damage, and they've got some beef in the middle in the interior defensive line. You're not too confident in that group, but it just feels like the corners could really let this team down if they don't click, especially early. So number 3 for me is I just don't know how good this cornerback group is. So now the fun part. Here's the reasons why the Chargers could be really, really good this year. I'm going to give you some reasons. Maybe you scrubbed all the way past the first 3 parts and you just wanted to get here to see how good they are. Everybody loves those yellow and blue tinted glasses. They love the rosy optimism, but I got to give it to you straight because last year I did. It went that way. I just don't want to blindly give you some hope when I feel like there's some real question marks, and I know you do too. So I'm going to give you the truth. So anyway, the good stuff. Why the Chargers could be really, really good. And first off, and I think all Charger fans have confidence going into this year, even though you're looking at a roster that doesn't have Keenan Allen anymore and Mike Williams. And like I mentioned, the corners don't look spectacular. The wide receiver group isn't all that good. They're kind of going with a 3-headed attack on the run, on the ground with Edwards and Dobbins and Vidal. And, tight end is really, 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 really not deep. It's very shallow. Doesn't feel like a lot of receiving weapons in that group. And, I think any other year you'd think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they'd be lucky to get a wild card spot. But when you have a man at the helm like Jim Harbaugh, you got to have confidence because he wins every single place he goes. So the first thing is the Harbaugh effect. I mean, look at from college to NFL. When he was at USD, 29-6. When he was at Stanford, look at this graphic, 29-21. San Francisco, 44-19-1. Michigan just won the Natty, 89-25. And then when you look at like the guys they had, he has never had a quarterback like Justin Herbert. I know Andrew Luck, you could maybe put as the next best guy, but I mean, with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick and JJ McCarthy, those 3 are nowhere near Justin Herbert's talent. So to have a guy like Jim Harbaugh who wins every single place he goes, having the Chargers release the reins and have Harbaugh hire his guys, bring in whoever he wanted to make this team good and let him do his thing, you got to have confidence because he hasn't failed once. That's 4 different programs, 3 in college and in the NFL. He reached the Super Bowl with the 49ers, didn't win it because his brother, but still got there. It just feels like, how could you go wrong? Now, it's not like he jumped out of the gate with the 49ers and won a ton of games. But, it feels like this is just the beginning. I think with year 2 and year 3, you're going to be really, really confident in Harbaugh. But right now, just kind of feels like they're going to be knocking on that door of the playoffs late in the season. You just have that feeling. When you've got Harbaugh at the helm, you just feel like you always have a chance. And so this team could be good because they've got an incredible man coaching this football team. So happy to have Harbaugh. I know we all are. The podcast has. Following that whole journey of when they were recruiting him to when they got him was special. And it just feels like this team could be really good solely because they got Jim Harbaugh. So the number 2 thing, and one of the reasons why this team could be really good, I think, is the run game. Now, I talked about how I have questions about the offensive line, but with the way today's NFL is going, where everybody wants track stars, you see Miami's offense, you see the 49ers, you saw, Kansas City try to get a lot faster this offseason with Xavier Worthy. Like, guys and teams are trying to get quicker and faster and want to put up points in a hurry. But when teams are zigging, it feels like Harbaugh is zagging. Greg Roman, Harbaugh want to play some smash mouth caveman football. And the one thing you can do to slow down an offense is keep them on the sideline. If you've got an offensive line that clicks early, wears down teams, and you've got a bruiser like Gus Edwards, you got someone who could pop one who hopefully stays healthy in J.K. Dobbins. And then if you need Vidal to spill some carries as the RB3, you've got him as well. If you've got all that beef up front, the offensive line, then you add a fullback on this roster now with Scott Matlock, and you put all that beef up front, and you're just pounding the rock over and over, and you're wearing down that defense, and you're in those close games like the Chargers always seem to be. When you've got a running game like that can win you games late, that's a sign of a really good football team. Now, Miami is fun. The Chiefs are fun. The 49ers are fun. But it just feels like if you want to win an ugly game, you need what the Chargers put together on that offensive line and even the tight ends with like Disley and Hurst being able to block on the edges and being able to put those 5 offensive linemen, adding Joe Alt because they thought he was a weapon on the offensive line, running behind Gus Edwards, opening up the passing game because you can run it behind that line. Chargers haven't been successful running the ball with McCoy, with Lynn, with Staley. If they can get a run game going and they could do it successfully, this team could be really good because Justin Herbert's going to keep the Chargers in games. There's no doubt about it. Justin Herbert by himself will always keep a team in games, no matter how bad the roster is. We've seen it with injuries with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen at times where they've had to have Michael Bandy as a wide receiver 1 or 2 at one point. He still gets it done. He still keeps the game close. And if Herbert can keep the game close, it's the guys behind that line that can win them late. It's that offensive line. It's that running game. So this team, for me, feels like, and I know there's going to be some times where everybody's going to be so annoyed because they're down 17 and you've got Greg Roman running into a wall over and over through the second and third quarter. And then eventually we're all going to be yelling like, what is Greg Roman doing? But other times it's going to be pretty fun because they're going to be running it over and over and over with effect, with some positive outcomes late. It's going to suck early, but then you're going to get those results late. And that's what a good football team does. And look, it's fun to be able to score points quick. And Herbert can do that too. But with a balanced running game, with a balanced run and pass attack, you got a pretty fun football team here. All right, for my last one, and this is the very end, and spoiler, if you listen to the first 3, I did kind of allude to it earlier, but if you didn't and you scrubbed and fast forward all the way through that, didn't want to hear why they'd be bad, and you came in now, good, I didn't spoil it for you. Everybody else, thanks for listening. but also I kind of talked about. They've got probably the best group of pass rushers in the NFL, at least the deepest. Because when you think about Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Thule, and Bud Dupree rushing the passer, where there's going to be times where all four of those guys are on the field in some kind of NASCAR package, and it's going to be mayhem. But what that does is it covers up the back end. If you've got pass rushers getting after the quarterback, there's nothing better for your corners. Corners love pass rushers. They rush the quarterback, rush them into some pretty bad decisions, and they can get some easy pickings and hopefully some turnovers on the back end. But if you've got guys like Mack and Bosa and Thule and Dupree 4 deep, you now have the opportunity to rest and rotate a lot of your pass rushers. You normally go 3 deep in a pass rushing set, but when you can go 4 and you can keep Mack fresh and Bosa fresh and Thule fresh and Dupree fresh, by the 4th quarter, I mean, it's going to feel like an onslaught because you've got such good pass rushers. Mack has shown it. Bosa has shown it as long as he stayed healthy. Thule was really promising at the beginning of last year, especially rushing inside. And having a guy like Bud Dupree as the 4th best pass rusher, where he's been a 2 and a 3 throughout his career, as a 4 is going to get a ton of opportunities behind those 3 guys. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of twists and stunts where you're going to see Thule and Bosa mix up the interior while you see Bud Dupree or maybe Junior Colson or maybe it's Jasir Taylor blitzing behind him. When you've got an opportunistic defensive coordinator like Minter and you've got 4 stellar pass rushers, you've got a pretty venomous group up front to get after the quarterback. And I'm not saying that just because I'm looking for something positive, but those 4 really are not getting enough cred. They are a really stellar group, and they are the deepest group in the NFL. There is not a better 4-man rotation than the 4 the Chargers have. I looked around, I couldn't find one. So not only do you have a ton of pass rushers at your disposal, but again, being able to keep those guys fresh. We know Mac's getting a little bit older. We know Bosa's getting a little bit older. Dupree's getting up there a little bit too. But Thule being able to rush from the inside, we're going to see a lot of inside movement. We're going to see a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And you've got Morgan Fox who can get after the quarterback. And then you've got some beef on running downs. I mean, when they've got a 3rd and 5 and up, I mean, it's just going to be mayhem. It's going to be so fun because there's going to be so many Chargers coming after the quarterback. And that's really going to help the back end because I feel like that corner group on paper is not very good. Hopefully they can click and it'll be just fine. But I think when you've got a pass rush like the 4 of those guys, that helps the guys behind them. And that'll cover up a lot of the deficiencies you have behind them. So for me, this 3rd thing on defense with Minter and how aggressive he's going to want to be with those 4 pass rushers and having a lot of DBs, Derwin, Jasir, Zont. I know Fulton's got after the quarterback. Gilman goes. Colson can get after the quarterback. Henley can go. Perryman can blitz. I mean, you've got everybody on the field who could go after the quarterback. And with the way Minter wants to mix and match, it's going to feel like pressure is coming and you don't know where it's going to come from because you've got everybody on the field. You've got 11 men. I mean, outside of the defensive linemen, you've got all your DBs and edge rushers coming after the quarterback. Who's going to drop back? Who's going to come after the quarterback? And that to me is going to lead to a lot of timeouts. It's going to lead to a lot of turnovers. And it's just going to be a lot of fun to watch. So with those 4, keeping all 4 of those pass rushers healthy, this team could be really good. And that's it. Those are my 3 bad, 3 good. Why the Chargers could be good. 3 reasons why they could be really good. And either way, it's going to be fun. Week 1, we all have optimism. Hopefully the Chargers can go out and beat the Raiders. A lot of Raiders fans in my mentions. Said some things about Telesco people don't like, but I guess it's hard to hear the truth. But either way, thanks for joining me on Score More. I appreciate you. I hate that he got that in at the end. I hate it. This intern thing already sucks, and I don't want any part of it anymore. So I don't know if I'll have an intern next week, but I appreciate you guys listening. And let's hope the Chargers score more.